money. It certainly does make the world go round. And the reason it's able to do so is that we trust these little pieces of paper. That's all it is, just a piece of paper. But around the globe, there is no piece of paper that inspires more confidence. Take this one, for example. We typically call it a $20 bill. But officially, it is a Federal Reserve note. And every Federal Reserve note that you spend or receive is part of a complex organization known as the Federal Reserve System.
Broadcasting from Brisbane, Australia, this is the FOMO Show.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Joe.
And this is a podcast where you'll hear about blockchain, cryptocurrency, emerging markets, and future tech in relatively plain English.
We'll help you stay across what's going on so you don't get the fear of missing out.
You can find us at FOMO.show or by searching for the FOMO Show on your platform of choice.
Everything in the show is in the show notes. You can find links to the stuff we're talking about and timestamps to the relevant parts, so you can always find it later.
So this episode, we're going to be covering a bunch of news, and there's been some really interesting developments that have happened this week in many of the emergent tech areas. So we're going to spend a fair bit of time going through those and discussing some of the most interesting parts.
And in our main feature, we're going to do an update on a number of decentralized applications which are built on public blockchains. So a few different projects we're checking in on. Should be really exciting.
Yeah, and we're also going to cover the browser in our privacy and security segment.
So what have you been up to recently?
I've actually just recently returned from Bali. I went for a week's holiday in Bali. Was over there for a wedding and spent a week over there. It was amazing. It was incredible. A lot to do. We tried to stay out of the tourist areas as much as possible and experience things properly. So we climbed a volcano.
Wow.
Went traveling around an island on scooters all day and found like a little hidden cove that we had to essentially scale a cliff to get down to. And just a number of other cool little things. It's just a really nice place. Everyone's really friendly, and we did a lot on the holiday, but it was a really good break. Wow. So that was great. Also just ran a webinar today on blockchain and smart contracts.
Nice.
And that's in conjunction with the law firm that I'm moving to called Teddington Legal. So I'm finishing up at my current job, and I'm now moving to more of a remote practice as a lawyer.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. So the webinar was from here in my room, and I can now practice as a lawyer from here in my room as well.
Wow.
At home. So
we are living in the future.
We are really living in the future.
Sheesh.
What have you been up to?
Hey, I've been traveling Queensland. I've had some relatives visit from the UK, so it rained every single day. So I told them to pretend that it was really beautiful and sunny most of the time, but they came on the only days of the year so far where it's rained.
And it rained for a long time, didn't
just heavy, thick rain. We went to all these lookouts, and then you couldn't see more than 20 meters. So kind of disappointing, but still cool. And yeah, I also did my tax return.
Yeah.
Declaring my crypto gains was horrific.
It looked horrific. When you sent me the photo, it really looked horrific.
So my recommendation, if you're a listener, is spend crypto. At least in Australia, if you spend your cryptocurrency, then it's not a taxable event. Or don't exchange crypto for other crypto, because that's a taxable event under capital gains. So I had to declare a bunch of exchange transactions. The easiest thing is just don't even buy crypto.
Yep.
Bit of disclosure, this is not an investment or any other type of advice.
Yeah, new cryptocurrencies seem to be popping up every day, and it's hard to know which ones are legitimate and which aren't. We're not saying you should buy anything at all on this program. Full disclosure, we're both personally invested in different cryptocurrencies and other things, some of which we talk about on this show. But if we talk about a project, it doesn't mean you should buy it.
So do your research, never invest more than you can afford to lose, and most of all, avoid the fear of missing out.
If you're new around here or new to crypto, you can check out our Blockchain Basics series. It starts from episode 2 and continues until episode 8.
It will give you some of the grounding in the fundamentals and help you understand what on earth we're talking about. Mate, what has been going on in the news this week, the last couple of weeks?
The first thing that we'll cover this week is that $194 million was moved using Bitcoin with a 10-cent fee. which really shows the true potential of crypto.
Wow. So yeah, on October the 16th, a Bitcoin user moved 29,999 Bitcoin worth 194 million with a 10-cent fee, which would have cost tens of thousands of dollars if they'd done that with a bank.
Yeah, any transaction on the ledger is just that, another transaction on the ledger. It doesn't matter how much you're transferring. All that you need to pay is for the small amount of mining time it takes for your one little transaction to be written to the chain. And that's all they paid. So it really shows that, this system is a fluid way to exchange huge sums of money without financial institutions and without paying all their unnecessary fees.
Another huge piece of news, Fidelity, who we talked about last episode, they have something like between $2 and $7 trillion under management, some massive amount of money. They're launching a crypto trading platform. So yeah, that's going to be a trading and storage platform for enterprise clients. So it's really the start of bringing on, big institutional investors into cryptocurrencies, particularly Bitcoin, and also like secondarily Ethereum, EOS, all these other ones. But yeah, what's your take on the move?
Yeah, I think it is brilliant. Fidelity is huge in the asset management area, and I think it's a huge movement. It's just another move to show that we're moving out of the cowboy stage into the stage where enterprise and the markets, the big markets, are really starting to take this stuff seriously, and they're starting to realize that there's a lot of value tied up in this. I don't think it'll be too long before you start seeing people talking about integrating estate planning elements to this stuff, and full-on custodial functionality that's like what you see with a lot of these massive term deposits and big banking instruments that high net worth individuals use. So this is just another step towards that, which is really, really exciting. So what are they saying they're building exactly?
From the piece, it's a custody service for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other yet to be named cryptocurrencies. So they'll hold it as part of their security in cold storage, along with multi-level physical and cyber controls, according to their press release. Now, through the platform, all 27 million customers and 23,000 businesses of Fidelity will be provided with sufficient infrastructure, they say, and services to invest in the cryptocurrency market. So this is big. It's a big onboarding move.
In connection with that, Mike Novogratz, who's the billionaire investor and head of Galaxy Digital, has said that his crypto fund will be Fidelity's first custodian client.
Which is really exciting stuff. He's been shouting about cryptocurrency for a long time. Galaxy Digital invested in a bunch of these huge projects that we've heard about.
Big investor in EOS.
So really, really interesting news. One to watch. If anyone of our listeners has assets in Fidelity or has a Fidelity account, do let us know how this goes. We'd love to hear an update from you. Sounds really cool.
Send us your password too. So next bit of news, sidechains are bringing ICOs to Bitcoin, and that might change crypto funding.
By the end of the year, an ICO will be launched on Bitcoin. You heard that correctly, on Bitcoin. So while Ethereum has been the choice of entrepreneurs who are running ICOs for a long time, Bitcoin, thanks to a new sidechain created by RSK, will now have the ability to host the new fundraising mechanism as well.
And in fact, the original concept of an ICO was first started on Bitcoin back in 2013. But the functionality was quite limited compared to what Ethereum is today. And I think that was part of the reason why people wanted to build Ethereum in the first place, because the system just was not up to scratch. But J.R. Willett raised a total of $500,000 for the token Mastercoin, which was later renamed Omni on the Bitcoin network.
Yeah, look at that.
So there you go. The original Dan the ICO man, J.R. Willett.
Fantastic. But and this smart contract sidechain for Bitcoin that RSK's developed has actually been in development since early 2016. So they're written in the same dominant language as Ethereum, so Solidity, but it's fueled by a Bitcoin-pegged cryptocurrency dubbed Smart Bitcoin, or SBTC. This just gets more and more
complicated.
Which is just what tech people like.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to watch. It'll be interesting to see if they can actually pull it off. Because if they can pull it off, And if it works well and doesn't clog the network up completely like we saw with Ethereum, or doesn't get compromised, or there aren't other issues, then it could potentially change the game completely, because most of the value still is tied up in Bitcoin. And a lot of the attractiveness of other networks is that they're not Bitcoin. They have more functionality than Bitcoin. And there has been a sector of the community that has always said, well, why don't we just build all of this on Bitcoin? And people's answer to that has been, well, it can't be done, or it's too hard, or we want to have our own network, or we want to make a bunch of ICO money when moon, et cetera, et cetera. But if they can do it, then the question will need to be asked, well, why do we need these other networks anymore? Especially if it's side chains, because if it's working on side chains, then it's harnessing Lightning and a number of those other new technologies that are being implemented at the protocol layer. It may not slow the network down at all. And there's still a lot of people that are developing for Bitcoin. So just something we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
The security firm in the UK, G4S, has launched a crypto custody service. So that's aimed at protecting investors' holdings of digital assets. So in the same way as sort of, Fidelity are doing this custody service, it's something that's happening in the UK as well. So it's a big security company, G4S. They're offering high security offline storage to help protect assets from criminals and hackers. Now, some people say the best thing to do is hold on to it yourself, but, for large amounts, it's worth considering. Yeah, and I think we mentioned it earlier, if they're insured for that amount, and all you're going to be doing is holding it, it may make sense. It may fit your risk profile more to have someone else be the custodian. And there are people that do that already with Swiss bunkers and several other things. They trust people to keep their huge amounts of Bitcoin safe in cold storage in those places as well. So... yeah, it really just depends on what you want. I think it's a good move. And I think, look, for a lot of people, it may be that they start with something like that. They start with a custodian service because they're not real familiar with the wallet system. And look, I still even get nervous. So I think it may be something that's like a gradual process where they do this first, and then maybe they might look into a cold storage wallet for themselves and educate themselves about how to store it properly, et cetera, et cetera. But no, it's exactly what happened with golden banks. And I think we're naive to think that system's ever going to go away completely. So next bit of news, Europe's largest port is going to track shipping containers with Samsung's blockchain tech. The Port of Rotterdam, which is Europe's busiest seaport, partnered with Dutch bank ABN AMRO and the IT division of the tech giant Samsung. They're launching a blockchain pilot program to track shipping containers. Really kind of cool stuff.
Yeah, so the foundation of the blockchain pilot will be the Next Ledger platform, which was released by Samsung in 2017. The platform is linked to R3 Corda, so the R3 Corda blockchain, and that's already being used by ABN AMRO. So they're actually looking at having a real genuine type of interoperability between the different blockchains. And that's achieved by an overarching notary that connects entirely separate blockchains in Korea and the Netherlands.
Wow.
Which will theoretically allow everyone involved in the pilot program to access pertinent information related to the tracking of shipping containers. And the interesting to note about this thing too is that Rotterdam has been trialing a system like this for the last couple of years.
Wow.
And I talk about it quite a lot in my talks, what they've been doing. I think it's called Port Ledger or something. I can't exactly remember, or Ship Ledger or something. But they've got a lot of data to draw upon for this already. Wow. So it looks like Samsung said, hey, you guys are doing this already. Can we jump on? Let's build a notary that'll talk between the two chains and let's build a bigger system.
That's
and I guess the eventual aim is to maybe outcompete IBM and Musk, who are also trying to develop something of their own as well.
Because the Port of Rotterdam have a lot of valuable data.
Yeah.
It's interesting that, according to a press release, the tracking of shipping containers from China to Rotterdam usually involves 28 different parties, and all of the data is manually documented on paper, which means mistakes and inefficiencies. But this pilot program, which is developed by BlockLab, which is a subsidiary of the Port of Rotterdam, is hoping to create that platform that operates from the perspective of shippers. So trying to make things more transparent, more cost effective, which is really interesting.
Yeah, look, it's just such positive language from them, because they're really saying, let's build a level playing field where everyone feels like no one's having to use someone else's software. It's going to belong to everyone, be managed by everyone, and we can all share our data safely, securely on the same platform. And so they've said that the experiment's slated to begin in January of next year, and it'll initially focus on tracking shipping containers coming from an undisclosed factory in Asia to an unnamed location in the Netherlands. But once that pilot is completed, after all the cloak and dagger stuff, interested parties will be allowed to join the cooperative network, and the results of the pilot will be released in February.
That's super exciting.
Yeah, so we'll put a pin in it, and hopefully January or February we start to hear a little bit more about how it's going, because they're doing this. Walmart have been doing a similar thing with their suppliers. I think we covered it a few weeks ago. They gave their suppliers an ultimatum saying, after this massive food security scare, we need to get everyone on this by this time next year.
Yeah.
I don't know how much more we've got to see for people to, because I still see a lot of people saying, oh, blockchain's no good for this kind of stuff. But the more and more money that pours into this, and the more and more big companies that adopt this stuff, and if the pilots are successful, I think there's going to be a number of people that may need to eat their words a little bit, because it seems like these big companies are very bullish on building genuine enterprise or consortium level blockchain solutions.
Google, they're introducing this call grilling feature that basically leverages that Google Assistant. And essentially what would happen is it transcribes the caller's request in real time. From what I gather, they sort of answer the phone for you. Google answers the phone for you if it's like an unknown number. And it goes, what do you want to talk to us about? And the person then says what they want to talk about. Google transcribes that, shows you, and then you can decide to pick up the call or not, and in which case you go straight into the call. It's based on that duplex technology, where a couple episodes we played a clip of it of Google making a phone call to make a reservation. But this is not just making calls, this is answering calls.
That's wild. That sounds like exactly what I want. I get private numbers calling me all the time. I get numbers I don't know calling me all the time, not leaving messages. It's really annoying, and something like this would actually really help me if I was willing to give Google access to all my calls, et cetera, et cetera. I reckon it'd be really, really helpful, because you can essentially screen calls, see if it's a telemarketer or see if it's someone just trying to waste your time.
And it's an especially big problem for our US audiences, because while in the UK and Australia, we've got these sort of do not call lists, well, do not text or call lists, those sorts of things.
Yep.
In the US, like, those don't really seem to work, even though there are some laws in place. Nearly half of all cell phone calls next year will be from scammers.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because they have those like political drives where it's like robocalls and stuff, don't they?
Yeah. Yep.
Man, not for me.
So Google has open sourced ActiveQA. It's an AI agent that learns to ask good questions.
So yeah, it's a research project that investigates the use of reinforcement learning. So that's aimed at training AI agents for question answering. So, I mean, Google are pretty good at seeing what sort of questions people ask, but I guess they're sort of learning from that. And they're learning to reformulate questions to get the best possible answers, which is kind of interesting.
Because that's been the biggest problem with a lot of AI systems up until now, hasn't it? That they kind of get it, but it's always only ever, you can always tell that it's an AI or a program. They never really hold a proper conversation. And so it's an interesting sign that they've said, well, the best approach to doing this is probably to open source it and let everyone work on it.
Yeah.
And that's what TensorFlow kind of does, isn't it? TensorFlow is their machine learning.
Yeah. It's saying it's part of a package for TensorFlow.
Okay.
So if you're building neural networks and machine learning things, which you can tell I don't understand, really cool.
So next bit of news, and this is something close to our heart, DuckDuckGo traffic is up 50% from last year and has hit a new record of 30 million daily searches.
Sheesh.
So DuckDuckGo, for those that don't know, is a Google alternative that's very focused on privacy. And they started a fair few years ago, but they've been gradually making their search algorithm more and more effective. And they kind of try and guarantee that when you search with them, it'll be a private search. They're not selling any ad space. They're not selling your data. It's a search engine for the open web, essentially.
And yeah, it's a 50% increase from last year's daily direct record, which was 20 million searches. Really, really cool.
I've been using DuckDuckGo for a fair while now, and I went and I used Start Page for a while too, which is kind of like a layer for Google where you can still search on Google, but you don't get any of the personalization that Google has. But just in the last probably 2 weeks, I've actually gone back to DuckDuckGo because I'm actually finding now that it's as good, or pretty much as good for me as Google in searching. They're really trying to make a fully featured search engine that doesn't track you, which is really nice. So next bit of news, Tesla. We talked about Elon Musk a couple of episodes ago and featured what he does quite heavily. But they're bidding on a $145 million piece of land for a much-needed Gigafactory 3 in China.
Earlier this summer, Tesla announced a deal with the Shanghai government to build a wholly owned local factory. Bloomberg's now reporting that they're closing in on a piece of land. Tesla, when they first announced it, Tesla said it expects construction to begin in the near future, and it would take roughly 2 years until they can start producing vehicles. And then another 2 to 3 years before it's fully ramped up to 500,000 vehicles a year. Pretty exciting step.
They're making a big push for China, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, China has a huge problem with smog. They've got a huge problem with pollution. More and more, it seems like the government over there is pushing for clean energy. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a number of government grants that will follow this as well, that will probably be announced when things really start kicking off. Tesla are very well positioned if things stay the same with the way oil is going and the energy market as a whole is going, to really take advantage of this. Because they are the industry leader in electric vehicles. There's no doubt about that at all. So it's exciting.
Yeah, 100%.
And leading on from that, Elon Musk also announced that the rapid transit test tunnel under LA will be open to the public by December 10th of this year.
So people would be whisked through the tunnels at up to 150 miles an hour. So they'd be traveling on like an electric powered platform called a skate. The device either comprises a vehicle itself carrying between 8 and 16 passengers, or it could carry a car that's been driven onto it. So you could park your car on an elevator. The elevator would sort of go down into the tunnel system. And then, when it's completed, there's going to be a bunch of different tunnels layered and moving in a bunch of different directions, with shorter segments serving as off ramps. And these shafts of the elevators would run straight up to street side locations. So whether that's into a garage or the basement of an office building.
And so it's the potential for, if you've ever been to LA, there's gridlock all the time, especially on their big roads, on the highways. It's shocking. So the potential for what it could do to the transport system is immense.
Wow.
Because like Elon says, there's a huge amount of space underneath. Very limited space on top, huge amount of space underneath. So building tunnels makes sense. The elevators won't be ready for December 10. So they're not ready yet. It's just going to be, as a member of the public, you're going to be able to go down there and you're going to be able to go into one of these vehicles that they've got pre-built on one of these skates, and you're going to be able to actually transit through the system. So it's exciting. They're getting to proof of concept stage now, where people are actually going to be able to go down and see what it does.
Wow.
And if the public likes it, and if the metropolitan government are on board, you could see a lot more tunnels springing up in LA and probably elsewhere quite soon.
They're just doing it. They're just getting on with it, digging holes.
And it could be a huge solution for all the issues we have in many of our cities. If they can build tunnels quickly and cheaply, and if their skates, I imagine their system actually won't need that much infrastructure. You won't need all this. If it's on these skates, you won't need all the different safety features you need in a lot of other tunnels, because it'll all be automated.
Wow.
So hopefully they can begin popping these things up everywhere if they work. I'd love to have them here in Brisbane, that's for sure.
Yeah. 100%.
And I'd pay for that. Definitely.
Wait, this is a crazy little piece that you came across. What was that all about?
Yeah, so Russian scientists have actually discovered bacteria that neutralizes nuclear waste.
Wow.
So the unique bacteria, which has been discovered in a nuclear waste storage in Siberia, shows a promise as a tool for the creation of a natural barrier to the spread of radionuclides, which is what's generated by material that's generating radiation.
Right, okay. It's saying these researchers have been able to isolate microorganisms which can be used to safeguard the surrounding environment from liquid radioactive waste. So they made this discovery while conducting microbiological studies of the groundwater at this Seversky deep radiation burial site in Siberia, which reprocesses low enriched uranium for nuclear fuel. And it's pretty crazy.
You got to sit back sometimes and look at this and go, what are these people doing for a job where they can just stumble across this stuff?
That is nuts.
And find this stuff out. It's amazing.
Well, it could have been a lot worse what they found.
That's very true. They could have found nearly anything. But the research says that the bacteria is capable of converting radionuclide ions, including those found in uranium and plutonium, into sedentary form. So essentially stopping the spread of dangerous radiation in the surrounding environment.
Whoa.
The researchers say that their funding is a first step in the creation of a biochemical barrier for radionuclides for use in deep burial sites containing liquid radioactive waste.
Wow.
And this is huge because everyone is worried about all this nuclear waste that we've stored deep underground and kind of forgotten about, because if there's a massive earthquake or something and it fractures, you could have all this gas escaping and coming up through the water table and all sorts of horrible things. So it could be a step in actually really neutralizing this waste once and for all.
That's really exciting. Otherwise, they decay over millions of years, apparently.
Yeah,
So,
the half-life is huge.
sheesh.
Yeah.
So, exciting step if this works out to be useful.
Yeah. Wherever you're joining us from, it's a pleasure having you here.
Why not drop into our Telegram and say hello?
You can find that at fomo.show/telegram.
In this feature, we're chatting about the state of the dApps. So last episode, we covered where the blockchain ecosystem as a whole was, but this week, we thought we'd highlight some of our favorite applications and innovations which are being built on blockchain platforms.
Yes, this will give us the opportunity to check in on several projects that we may have covered before or we've been interested in but haven't really talked about, and just see where they're at, see where things are going. We talk a lot about the platforms themselves and what people are doing in the enterprise sector, but there were a number of projects that did ICOs last year, a number of projects that sought funding from other methods or just started, and they've had nearly a year to develop things and to really get some minimal viable products out. So we thought we'd check in on where some different projects are, some projects that excite us, and just talk about what they're doing.
Yeah.
So we're going to run through a list of 7 or 8 projects and just touch on where they're at.
So let's start off with Aragon. Now, with more and more people getting involved in cryptocurrencies and blockchain projects, there's become more of a need for governance, like on-chain governance. So people making decisions and voting and those sorts of things to decide where their project moves. Now, Aragon have been involved in with decentralized autonomous organizations, so creating a system for running decentralized autonomous organizations and digital jurisdictions.
Yep.
We covered them a while ago. I can't remember which episode, but yeah, you checked in on them and saw what happened. What sort of things have you been seeing?
Yeah, so Aragon have kind of gone through several direction shifts over time. So initially they were just building their platform as a series of smart contracts that would plug directly into Ethereum. And they eventually went back to the drawing board and said, no, we actually need to build a whole operating system for this. We need to have our own real little ecosystem in here because there's too much to just build into smart contracts on Ethereum themselves. So that's where they got to. And they've been working on that for the last probably about a year. And they've up to what they call Aragon OS 3.0. So they've built in a number of different functions into the platform.
So what's Aragon OS 3.0 all about? What are the new features? What are they building up on that they had previously?
So the first feature is a token manager, and this has been with the OS pretty much since the word dot. And what that allows you to do is essentially issue tokens within your decentralized autonomous organization or company. And so it allows you to assign value and have tokenomics within your organization, and it can actually represent your stake within the company. So it's not just some share that's written on a piece of paper somewhere. It's a physical token that represents a certain share if you want it to, and that's tradable. That share's tradable, it's assignable, but it's a very elegant way of keeping track of who owns what. And you may even be able to make smaller organizations that have their own share structures and all sorts of things. So that's in there as base functionality. The second one is voting, and what this allows you to do is you can have resolutions within the company. For example, you can put things up to a vote, and because it's a blockchain-based system, it's very easy to verify, first of all, who called the vote and who's voted for what, and very easy to verify that the voting's been transparent because everything's obviously built into the blockchain, and there's a lot of traceability and auditability with that. So that's the second function within the system. The third function that they've built is the finance function. Several things that allows you to do. The first one is to add employees and make recurring payments of Ethereum, for example, and integrate that into a smart contract. And the smart contract will essentially happen behind the scenes. You don't need to program it. It's all handled by Aragon. It's all deployed on the Ethereum network. Right. And it's all auditable by the DAO as well, the Decentralized Autonomous Organization. The finance system also gives you a complete transaction record built in, so you can see who's been spending what, who approved it, what amount was spent and where it went to, all within the system. So
it makes auditability really easy.
Exactly. It all just happens right there within the organization because, again, you've got that interaction between money and business logic happening right there, which we don't have at the moment with any of our other systems. But it also lets you manage permissions. So you can manage permissions about who's able to see what, who's able to spend what. They've got multi-sig wallet functionality. So if you've got several directors, you might need 5 out of the 6 directors to say yes to a large transaction before it can be spent. So it's quite a robust financial system so far, and they're planning on building more into it as well.
It also mentions that they've added a survey feature. What's that all about?
Yeah, so it's their newest feature, and it's actually the first one they've deployed on the Ethereum mainnet. So all the other features have been operating on the testnet at the moment, just because the testnet's quicker and they're able to build out the process and test it quicker. But the signals essentially allow you to put various proposals or projects out for vetting by your DAO, by your community. And you can get sentiment on different types of those projects, and people can signal their support for them. And it's kind of similar to the voting system, but it's kind of different as well. But it's more like an area where things can be vetted. It's a lot more open, and you can actually open it up to the wider community as well. So,
that's really exciting, because I mean, you can envision in the future, but them having a complete system where it's almost a project management system where you go from idea incubation all the way through to building a project. You could issue shares to the company, to the employees based on the ideas that they have or how much work they do, and have it all working in one thing. It seems like a really big solution that they're building, because these are not, each one of these features is huge in and of itself.
And it's all borderless. It's all borderless. You don't need to register in any jurisdiction for this stuff. It truly is a decentralized organization. And it's incredible. And the more I see from what they're building, the more it gives me confidence. The next bit with Aragon is they recently had an audit. So they got the whole system audited recently for security reasons. And we'll put the link in the show notes for the report. But there is a report from that, and you can go and read it. And they made several suggestions about what should be done in the future.
Cool.
But I also saw a great piece for Aragon recently about having a personal DAO. So this piece was essentially someone saying, well, this is great for corporations, but I could build one for myself, and it could kind of be like my wallet, but with my Swiss Army wallet, essentially, with a whole bunch of extra features. So they talked about having like a DAO for your marriage, or like your personal DAO having elements for your marriage, but there's like 50% voting power on what happens with the wallet. And all sorts of different things like that. And you can put proposals and which is novel, like, and it's a bit silly,
but it's a great concept.
It's a really interesting concept, and but like I looked at that and I thought, well, you could do a similar thing for kids, and that might actually work. You could say, I'm going to give you a pocket money DAO, and for the money to be spent from that pocket money DAO, I need to approve it.
Oh,
nice. So it's just like, and that'd be free to boot up. the kid could see, they could put proposals to you, and you could,
That's really cool.
But like, I just read it and I thought that's really interesting. It was a really interesting blog article, and just kind of got me thinking about this concept of applying it on a more personal level. Especially once the function, because you've got all the auditability there from all the transactions as well. You could make a smart contract that doesn't allow you to spend over a certain amount without getting the approval of, I don't know, a friend you trust or something, especially if you're trying to save money. There's just a lot of really interesting use cases for that kind of stuff.
That sounds, if you've got a lot of kids though, and one of them's particularly financially minded, you're going to see pump and dumps in your own family. Oh man, that sounds super exciting. It's like, this is, I mean, it still sounds like crazy early days. It's like someone's talking about Betamax in the 80s. It could be the thing, it might not, but they're building something which is genuinely useful for any kind of organization. So it could be it's not just companies. It could be charities. It could be like community groups, things like that.
And they want people to be able to build full-fledged jurisdictions in this too. Wow. So when these DAOs start doing business with each other, they're going to need to agree on some rules. And they may make a joint venture DAO or something, for example. But there's going to be a legal element to it. And it's really interesting going through their documentation and reading about where they think a lot of this stuff may go in the end. But yeah, look, really interesting project. You can keep up with the blog. They post stuff there regularly. We'll put the link to the blog in the show notes. But yeah, keep an eye on Aragon. I'm really looking forward to checking in on it next time as well, because I was pleasantly surprised. I hadn't played around with it for quite a while, and I came back and I was like, wow, where did all this stuff come from,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Aragon. Cool name. Everipedia. So this organization, they're dubbed the world's largest encyclopedia on the blockchain. Now, they've launched on EOS now, if I'm not mistaken. Previously, they were just building it just on the web, but now they've actually decided to move it into EOS. So that brings in a bunch of exciting possibilities, which we'll be talking about. But yeah, if you haven't been on the website, everipedia.com or .org.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful version of Wikipedia. And if you're editing pages, if you've ever even considered editing a Wikipedia page, don't, because it's horrible. Like, there's its own language of wiki markdown sort of stuff, whereas this is sort of more like editing a Word document. Right. I haven't done it myself, but I mean, I've seen what it looks like, I think, and it looks crazy awesome.
Yeah.
And the fonts are really nice. So, side point. But yeah, what's been happening with them?
Yeah, so they're essentially, like you said, a decentralized Wikipedia, and one of the original founders of Wikipedia is part of the team.
Wow.
So this is essentially what he wanted to build. I think Wikipedia only has about 2 million articles, and that's where it's pretty much been capped. This essentially, they want to make it a far bigger encyclopedia.
Wow.
So it's been launched, and there's a proof of stake model. So they've got a token, I think it's called IQ. There's a proof of stake model which essentially incentivizes users to post and get rewarded, and it allows people to vote for changes and upgrades to the network as well, like a la Steemit.
That is huge. I mean, however many contributors there are to Wikipedia, there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And they're not getting paid. They're just doing it for the goodness of their heart.
That's right. So it provides a method to remunerate them, provides a method to have people stake things, to vote for changes and upgrades. And the awesome thing about Everipedia is it integrates with Scatter as well, which is kind of like the MetaMask for EOS. So if you ever use MetaMask on Ethereum, it's like the web. You can have an Ethereum account, you can integrate with web applications. Scatter lets you do the same thing, but with EOS, the EOS blockchain.
Okay, so what you're saying is Scatter is like a web browser-based wallet for EOS?
Exactly.
Cool.
And they're adding more and more features to it as it goes. It seems to be working really well. And it will integrate directly with Everipedia when you load it up, which is pretty cool to see. Everipedia's integration with the blockchain in broad terms, it has 3 models. So you've got the token module, which makes changes to the token balances, addresses. It can transfer tokens around. It runs the smart contracts, which the network runs on. You've also got the article module, which is used to propose edits, which can be included in the database of the encyclopedia articles. And there's also a governance module kind of laid over the top of everything, which can upgrade the network and the smart contracts that run on the blockchain.
Wow.
So propositions made within the network are within those 3 modules, and everything runs on consensus.
Wow.
So changes aren't made unless there's a consensus of the parties within the network who hold the token. So the next project that we wanted to touch on is Brave and Basic Attention Token. So Brave is essentially a browser, and it's a privacy-first browser. And the Basic Attention Token is a token that's integrated into the browser natively behind the scenes, and it runs on the Ethereum network.
Wow.
And so we've covered Brave before, but it's designed to allow advertisers to advertise without compromising user data. And it's designed to reward users for their attention on advertisers' advertisements.
Wow.
So it's a really different model in that advertisers, instead of paying a fee to Google or to Facebook, they'll pay the fee to the network to advertise on the network. And instead of the fee going to some company, just for the privilege of advertising on their network, a small percentage of that fee will go to Brave, but the majority of that will go to the user for watching the ads.
Wow.
So you can essentially get paid to turn on ads, and they're trying to build an algorithm that matches you with content that you might actually want to see. But they've built all sorts of anonymity layers and all sorts of things behind the scenes.
They've had a few little updates over the last year. Tell us a bit about those.
Yeah, well, first of all, the browser itself has gotten a lot better. I got to admit, when I first started using it, it was quite buggy. And I actually use it as my main browser for a while.
Right.
Firefox is my main browser now, and I recommend that to everyone. But Brave is like a close second. If it wasn't built on Chrome, I'd probably really seriously consider using it as my main browser.
Right.
So that's the first thing. It's a great browser to use, blocks all sorts of ads and trackers out of the box. And actually, I do use it all the time on my mobile. So my phone browser is always Brave, all the time. It's brilliant. Blocks all ads. I can plug it into my basic attention tokens if I want. It's awesome. But Brave has also had this scheme come up, which is called Brave Rewards. And that's essentially what we talked about before, but they've actually implemented it and from their website, it says Brave Rewards lets you anonymously support the sites you visit. With Brave Rewards, your browser tallies the attention you spend on the sites you visit and divides up a monthly BAT contribution amongst sites based on your attention.
Wow.
Nobody will know which sites you visit or support, including us here at Brave Software. So it's essentially a way, like I said, you get paid for your attention if you want, but you can also pay the sites you really like for what they do as well. So it's a really interesting way to give back to the sites that you're on a lot.
Wow. So if you own a website that has a bit of traffic to it, it's saying that, when contributions are equal to about $100 in BAT, explanatory emails will be sent to you, the site's registered domain owner, and your webmaster to begin the verification process. So once it's verified, contributions are settled at the end of each month. Yeah, look, and in connection with that, Brave have actually announced that they're partnering with Civic as well. And Civic is a secure identity verification system built on a blockchain. And they've said that through Civic's technology, publishers who want to verify will be able to use Civic. And what that will mean is that only the publisher can collect their basic attention token rewards every month, and it can't be siphoned off by a malicious attacker, because the malicious attacker would have to verify themselves with Civic before they can claim their money. Wow.
Which is a really interesting way to kind of safeguard whatever funds are coming into the website.
Wow.
So look, if you want a crypto browser to check out, a browser that natively supports crypto, Brave is well worth having a look at. There's a lot of development going on with it. Basic attention token pumped about 60%, I think, the last couple of days. There's an announcement that they may be listed on Coinbase quite soon. So there's a lot of press around it at the moment. But give it a look, see what you think. And I can say personally that it is my secondary browser, and I do use it all the time on my phone. So.
Wow. You were the person who first told me about basic attention token, but because I'm an advertising guy for my day job, that, I bought a bunch of BAT so I could hold on to it for a while and then use it to buy adverts. So I'm hoping to spend my BAT on ads and just send propaganda out to anyone who wants to see it. So lots to look forward to. We should one day hook up the FOMO Show website. We should. As a publisher.
Yeah. And look, if you want to support the show, that is one way you can probably do it.
Yeah.
Jump on Brave, get some basic attention token, support the website.
So would that be like spending time listening to the podcast on our website or something?
Yeah, maybe. I think you can also just contribute. I think.
Right, cool, cool.
It might still be based on your attention. So leading on from that, I also wanted to touch on Civic since we just mentioned it. Civic is a digital identity ledger and it's designed to do away with passwords.
Right.
So companies can hook into Civic and have users register using their Civic ID instead of having to take on all their own private details themselves.
Right.
And so when I participated in a crowd sale, I think late last year, I downloaded the app onto my phone, I verified with Civic, and even then it was quite seamless. And that became my digital identity on my phone.
Wow.
And that was my KYC process for the crowd sale.
Wow.
Civic essentially handled it and then went back to the crowd sale and said, we verified this person, here's the hash. And that's all they needed, which was really cool. So it means companies don't necessarily have to take on details, and it also means users can control their identity and choose what they disclose and don't disclose. And it's all linked into a blockchain-based ledger. So you've got surety about once you're verified, you're verified.
Sounds like a great way of reducing risk. You know, you're not holding all this personal information, and you know, and especially if you're in the EU, you're just checking a checkbox and happy days.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Well, they're doing a lot. I mean, so look, this Civic Libra, for example, which is their latest innovation. It's designed for users to be able to verify their data on their mobile device, but then once they've put that data in, it gets sent to a trusted validator who validates their information, confirms the identity, so that could be a government institution, for example, and then sends their verification of that details to the Civic blockchain.
Right.
And then once that's done, for KYC for any company, all the company needs to know is that identity has been confirmed. So they don't need all the other details. They just need to know, yep, it's verified by Civic, and they can keep going, which is really, really, really useful. So they've got this. That's Civic Libra, which is being offered to like enterprise level businesses and as like a far easier way to do KYC.
Cool.
And yeah, that's one of the ways that they're changing things. There's a number of other things that's up on their blog, but yeah, Civic is doing some really interesting innovation around data identity management, which I think is really important for the internet and for the blockchain space in general.
100%. The next project we're checking in on is 0x. Now, I believe that they recently got launched onto Coinbase as one of their latest coins. And they're a protocol for decentralized exchanges. So that's exchanges that run autonomously without any sort of human input. Is that what a decentralized exchange is?
Yeah, essentially it just runs directly on the blockchain network without having to be controlled by any party and without having to hold funds.
Sheesh.
So it's essentially like a matching service between two accounts, but it's got a layer for buying and selling and demand and sentiment and all those things that you come to expect with a market.
That's super cool.
Yeah, so it plugs directly into your MetaMask, so there's no need to put anything on an actual exchange. You do need to use the Ethereum network, and anything you're trading for must be within the Ethereum network for 0x.
Right.
But what it allows you to do is it allows you to have auto matching across a number of decentralized exchanges. So I've used Radar Relay before, which is one that uses 0x, but some of the orders that were coming on there wouldn't have been from Radar Relay. They would have been from Bancor or another decentralized exchange that may have used 0x.
Wow.
So it's a really, really interesting protocol because it allows you to draw liquidity from other relayers, you know, liquidity from across the network and then match orders across that network.
Which makes any decentralized exchange that uses 0x sort of protocol massively expand the capability of their exchange, almost.
Yeah, because they're not worried about holding funds anymore. They just draw the liquidities across the network. And the order matching happens across the network. So it's really just about choosing what exchange you're most comfortable with if you're going to use 0x, what your user experience you like. And so it's really elegant. It does still allow you to have permission liquidity pools. So like if some exchange says, we just want a pool that's just for us, you could still do that and use smart contracts to do that within their protocol. But there's a number of use cases that they list.
What are some of those?
Gaming and collectibles is one of them. They do have support now for ERC 721, so you can not only exchange tokens, but you can also exchange like CryptoKitties. On this protocol. And Ethereum on, which is now like the biggest one that's surpassed CryptoKitties now.
Right. So unique assets.
Unique assets can be, or unique classes of assets can be exchanged across the network.
Wow.
It also has prediction markets. So they've got that's another use case of 0x, to be able to predict where prices are going to go based on what's happening with the sentiment. There's a number of order book applications that can be could happen with 0x because it is a liquidity layer for the network.
Wow.
They've even said decentralized loans. You may be able to have efficient lending because there's liquid markets and you can buy and resell the loans. So 0x would enable an ecosystem of lenders to essentially self-organize and efficiently determine market prices for all the outstanding loans.
Wow.
Similar to what happens in markets today. And also stable tokens as well. So stable tokens require efficient liquid markets to succeed, and they're planning on facilitating economic mechanisms that will allow those tokens to remain stable as well. So there's a huge amount of use cases that this brings up.
Wow. So can you go into like the radar relay you were talking about a little more?
Yeah, so radar relay is essentially a decentralized exchange which uses the 0x protocol.
Okay.
And so it was similar to using a real exchange, except I didn't need to register. I just opened up the website. My MetaMask was logged in, or if it isn't, they tell you to log into your MetaMask.
So MetaMask is just a wallet for Ethereum.
Yeah, MetaMask
is
just your in-browser wallet for Ethereum, cool. And so I just logged in. It detected my MetaMask, said, and then my account popped up on the top, and that's 0x, and then the address after it. Yeah. And then away I went. I could see all the different order books, all the different prices. I had 0x at the time that I was trying to trade for something else because I'd made a significant amount of money on it.
Right.
Because I've been enthusiastic about this thing for a long time.
Right.
And yeah, I just found the token that I wanted to trade for. I actually traded for some Ethereum as well.
Right.
And I put it in an order, and about probably 30 minutes later, my order was filled.
Wow.
I didn't need to register for anything. I didn't know, I wasn't drawing from any pools of currency held by a centralized entity. Mm-hmm. It was all user to user or several users. So somewhere out there in the ether, several other users put sell orders on, and I put a buy order on, and 0x through this radar relay decentralized exchange matched my orders and fulfilled them.
Wow.
Which was just amazing. I was so blown away that there was no third party involved at all.
That's
was just
crazy.
A decentralized exchange. So, yeah, like I said, it was really interesting. And practically it was a little slow, but it actually works.
That's nuts. Wasn't there a Ethereum-based trading card game that was using 0x to trade collectibles and stuff?
Yeah, so Gods Unchained, it's called. They recently sold 1 million cards, which all have virtual, like, blockchain personality.
Wow.
They're building their player marketplace on their version 2 of their software on 0x.
Wow.
So they want you to be able to trade with their cards, their virtual cards, on whatever decentralized exchange you want to trade it on, and trade it between Ethereum accounts.
Wow.
So they're building it all within 0x, which is really, really cool. And 0x in general envision themselves as a way for peer-to-peer things in the real world to give themselves a blockchain facelift.
Right.
So for an example of that, apart from Gods Unchained, Block.party, which is a recent $10 million raise of capital as a project,
right.
They're going to be adapting Settlers of Catan onto a blockchain-based console.
Wow.
And several of the game elements are going to be having some kind of blockchain personality, where it's a real-world device that's using it, but there'll be some blockchain elements to that.
That's crazy, because Settlers of Catan is like a big board game that's really popular, and you sort of build islands and collect, get materials and build things and roads and cut and stuff and move around. And
there's a lot of talk about putting digital assets and real-world assets on a blockchain system like Ethereum, because it can essentially be like a registry of ownership. And you just need to put the hash somewhere on the real asset which corresponds to the token, to then be able to trade the ownership of that that asset.
And finally, gamers are getting their own financial ecosystem, which is crazy.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that gaming leads the way on so much of this as well, you know, because you can see that if they're doing it with games, it won't be too long before they're able to do it with other things. Generally, the community, these innovations start in gaming and then they kind of branch out to other things. So
if that happened when I was a kid, that would have been so much better, because the amount of time I wasted gaming when I could have been profiting from my RuneScape.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, look, if you want more information on 0x, really interesting stuff they're doing, you can check out their blog. We'll put the link to that in the show notes and watch this space.
Next project we're checking in on is Decentraland. Now, it's a decentralized virtual world, and a while ago they were sort of selling all this land. I think their crowd sale or their token sale or whatever it was just selling the land that was on that blockchain. It was crazy. So it's this crazy idea of a virtual world, not unlike Second Life. I believe the founders have had something to do with that, or there's some sort of connection.
They've been involved somehow.
Yeah, and you know, you can have assets which have a blockchain personality within the ecosystem. There are two currencies with us. So there's land and there's mana. So mana is spendable, like your everyday currency, and land is just a share of the land in this Genesis city that they run. What's been going on with this Decentraland project in the last year? And because we talked about it, and their website looked really cool at the time. It was playing this video of some 3D crazy cool stuff, and it was pink and it was awesome. What's been going on there?
A lot. There was so many updates for this and so many new partnerships. It seems like most of the games that are building on Ethereum are wanting to have some kind of element on Decentraland. It seems to almost like it's going to be the ecosystem to bind everything together, bind all these games together. So first thing to say is they've got a Decentraland marketplace. And that's essentially a marketplace that hooks into your account. I believe it uses 0x as well, actually. And we'll put the link to that in the show notes. But that's where you can buy all the land in this city. So it lets you buy and sell land. And the first big thing they've done is they've built this concept of estates. So it used to be that you could only buy one parcel of land at a time. And they've said, okay, well, now we've established that. Let's allow people to parcel their land up and make actual estates. And they'll be able to trade these estates. They'll be able to, if they buy them, they'll be able to dissolve them or alter them, so subdivide them without any of the council laws that we have currently, that say you can't subdivide. It's becoming a more and more robust marketplace for land in the ecosystem, but also beginning with other things as well. So they're envisioning this thing as being a big marketplace for the whole ecosystem.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, so you can go in right now. I mean, I've got some mana I still haven't spent. I haven't bought any land myself. I'm just kind of waiting for the opportune moment to swoop in.
The right parcel of land to buy.
That's right. I'm just walking down the streets and checking things out. No, but which you will be able to do soon. I think you can actually do a fair bit of that now. They've also got this concept of mortgages, which really intrigued me. They're actually building functionality in, and they're almost there to be able to get a mortgage over a land. So let's say you're a high roller, you've got a bunch of mana, you've got a bunch of money in the ecosystem. Yeah. And there's also someone that wants to build, let's say, a arena for their new game. Yeah. And they're going to need a number of pieces of land to do that, or a big estate. Yeah. Well, you could say, you don't have the money to do that, but I've got a bunch of money, so I can lend you that money as long as I get an entitlement to that land if you don't pay me. And you can build that as a smart contract. So it can be quite a simple smart contract within the ecosystem to say, if I give you 2 million mana, you pay me X amount of mana per month off your mortgage. And if you default 2 times in a row, done, I take your property. And just like what happens with a bank. Wow. And you might be able to get mortgage insurance on that.
So that's where this whole dividing up of estates back into little parcels of land comes in really useful.
Exactly. Wow. Yep, exactly. And so it will mean that there will probably begin to be real estate agents in this, and maybe like virtual lawyers, I don't know. But it's a really interesting, because it's kind of like, it's almost a precursor for real life. Like if we get housing on a blockchain, it would be quite simple then for a bank to say, well, if I'm going to lend you this money, we're going to make a smart contract. And that's going to have the terms of the agreement in that. And if you default 3 times in a row, it all comes back to me, and I know and you know that that's what's going to happen.
You wonder how long it's going to be until they actually break out of the virtual world and just turn the whole planet into a real decentralized world where all these parcels of land. It's just, it's just, that's crazy. But I mean, that's insanely powerful what they're doing. Like it's really simple on the face of things. But this is an actual 3D virtual world that's there,
and it's built for gaming. You know, I mean, it's a game world, but we're starting to see these real world concepts emerge, and they're doing a similar thing with these partnerships with these games.
Yeah.
So there's a number of games developing on Ethereum, and they're all looking to partner with Decentraland. And if you go on their blog page, you will just see a huge amount of partnership announcements. So a couple that caught my eye.
Yeah.
One was crypto cars, and it's just this racing crypto game where you can buy different smart assets which essentially represent cars.
Yeah.
You can buy entitlements to different tires and wheels and all sorts of things, you know.
Yeah.
But they've already come out and said, we want to put a racetrack in Decentraland where people can race their cars from crypto cars in Decentraland.
Wow. That's wild.
Because it's all the same account. It's all the same Ethereum account. So it's quite easy for you to come into another app, and as long as the functionality is there, the app can say, oh, look, you have these cars. Well, here's this racetrack, and you've got an entitlement to these seven cars, and you can race in our game as well.
Ethereum needs to scale so fast.
It does. It really does, because there's so much innovation.
Shit.
And it's not fair that it's not better. You know, it's not. All these guys are doing amazing stuff.
Yeah. What other partnerships have they had?
So there's another one called Crypto Beasties, and they've essentially said that it's going to be a quest RPG style game.
Right.
But they want to host people to be able to host questing areas in Decentraland.
Right.
So you could jump out of Crypto Beasties, come into Decentraland, quest in people's backyard, and earn and do quests, kill beasts, whatever, and then those items that you earn, the experience you earn, would automatically be credited to your Ethereum account, which would mean that when you go back into the Crypto Beasties game, that's all there for you.
Wow.
And it may be that you can only earn certain items in the Decentraland questing areas. So you're seeing all this cross-pollination because you've got this level playing field where everyone can have almost like a shared account. Which is just so interesting.
If you told your grandparents about this 10 years ago, they would have said you're bonkers. They'd still say you're bonkers.
Yeah.
It still is bonkers, yeah.
But it's happening. You know, I mean, we featured Hashrush a few weeks ago, and they were talking about a lot of this stuff. And there's a number of others. If you go on their blog, you'll see the amount of projects that they're trying to get integrated into this, and it's unreal. So Decentraland, check it out. We'll put the link in the show notes. We'll put a link to a couple of those projects as well. But yeah, definitely one to watch and worth just going and having a look at as well. You can actually go in and you can wander around in parts of the land. I'm
still just as excited as the first time I heard it. Probably more excited, but I still haven't bought any. And I want to, but I don't, because it's like, is that land even worth anything?
That's right.
But it's still exciting.
Yeah.
Next project we're checking in on is Cointext. So this allows you to send crypto to someone else with just a text message. You've tried this out, haven't you?
Yeah. So I tried it here in Australia. I think I sent it to one of our co-workers back in the day. I got money from the faucet and texted him. I texted a certain amount of Bitcoin Cash to his phone.
Wow.
And he got a text like 10 seconds later saying you've received 20 cents worth of crypto.
Wow.
You can check your balance by texting balance to this number. You can get your password by texting X, to this number, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's essentially all it is. It's just it's essentially a phone layer for the blockchain.
Wow.
So you can get money into your account, your wallet account, and then you're able to send that money to other people using just their phone number.
And it's just tied to your mobile phone number.
Just tied to your mobile phone number.
Fantastic.
Yeah, which is just amazing. And that's cool for us here, but in a developing nation where they don't have smartphones,
sheesh.
Complete game changer.
Didn't even think of that.
Not most of them have bank accounts. It's very hard for them to get access to a system of exchange that works well. And their goal for Cointext, I mean, they're trialing it in mainly more affluent countries just to get the infrastructure right. But their goal is to take it into the developing world.
Wow. So they've been adding more countries and features. What have you heard much about those countries?
Yes, there's about 30 countries in all they've added to. A lot in Europe. It works here in Australia. There's a couple in Africa, I think.
Wow.
There might be a couple in South America now too. But they always seem to be adding more and more countries. And you can even, they've got some cool new features as well. You can even pay your BitPay invoices over SMS now.
Wow.
Which is really interesting. So yeah, Joe's got the map up right now, and it looks like it's actually the majority of South America, the majority of Europe, America, Australia, Hong Kong, and South Africa as well, I think, and a couple of areas in the Middle East. That's gone up from I think there was only 7 or 8 in the initial beta test.
And that was created by Vin Armani, who's he recently finished his Vin Armani show, didn't he? Which is a big YouTube channel.
Yeah. So I think he's kind of focusing on this full time now and several other things. But yeah, so he said that he stopped developing for Bitcoin quite a while ago because it just was too slow. And then he still had a lot of the code for this project. And then when Bitcoin Cash came along, suddenly he could settle transactions a lot quicker and the code worked again. So he essentially just ported the code over to the Cash chain and they've built on top of that.
Wow.
And it seems to be doing really well. So yeah, definitely one to watch. And look, I'd recommend just going to the website, getting it onto your phone. I think there's a faucet that runs, which sends you about 50 cents worth.
Wow.
And you can get it texted to your phone. And then you can text a couple of your friends and just surprise them, send the text to them and they'll get a text saying, hey, you've received X amount of money, and that could be the conversation starter you need to get them into crypto.
Insane. That sounds awesome. So that's Cointext.io.
So the last thing I wanted to touch on, we covered EOS a fair bit leading up to launch and at launch. We haven't checked in on it too much since, and we did mention one of the projects earlier on that's running on EOS, Everipedia. But we just want to touch on the gambling apps as well.
So why is that a big deal?
Up until the launch of EOS, there were several people that tried to do gambling apps. And that was mainly on Ethereum.
Right.
And what the people that were developing these gambling apps found was that the Ethereum network was just not fast enough to handle the high volume of transactions needed for gambling. Because gambling operates a lot on changing data, odds that are current to the second, and games that happen very, very quickly.
Right. So there's no room for error here.
No room for error. You can't be waiting 10 minutes for something to settle, a transaction to settle, because it's just not going to happen. And so when EOS came along and proved that they had a platform which could handle thousands of transactions a second and run smart contracts, all the gambling apps said, well, that's our platform. That's the only one around that actually does what we need it to do, which is quite undisputable. I mean, you can't argue that there's any other platform that has the amount of transactions and has the smart contract capability that EOS has. So they develop a whole bunch of gambling apps. And if you go on there's a dApp monitor or something for EOS, you can see that the top 15 most transactions on the network are from all these gambling apps. And some of them, there's a lot of transactions going on. But that hasn't come without a cost. And in the news recently, there's been several of these gambling apps that have been hacked. And the problem for that isn't with the platform itself, but with the code of the gambling app. It's the same with Ethereum. When they say Ethereum's been hacked or Bitcoin's been hacked, it's not the protocol that's been hacked, it's the people building dApps on top. And what a lot of these gambling apps have found is that their smart contracts have not been robust enough and secure enough in their own development to be able to handle the target that they're creating by having all this money going on. Because if you're running a lottery or something, for example, if you can find a way to fill the lottery and get all the award coming to you, it can be very, very lucrative. And especially if you can siphon off money or something. But it's just been really interesting to watch that all these gambling apps have risen. There has been some problems, but it's a big endorsement of the platform itself that they've finally found a platform where they can run these kind of apps and have the smart contracts executing near instantly.
So yeah, what's your summary of all of these dApps that we've gone through? It's super exciting stuff. I mean, from what I've been hearing here, I mean, Cointext, it's a really simple application, just sending Bitcoin Cash via text message, but they've just been growing. spreading to more countries. I mean, you've had Decentraland, which is just wild what they're doing there. There's some really exciting things. Everipedia as well. I mean, I really want to check that out. But what's your summary? How are you feeling about this whole thing?
Yeah, look, it's really encouraging. It's really encouraging to see what's going on. It's encouraging to see there's so much development going on. It's encouragement to see that there are real applications for this on public networks beginning to emerge that aren't just sending money to each other. And look, I think the platforms probably are still where a lot of the action is, because the platforms are still being sorted out themselves. I mean, Ethereum is looking at a hard fork in, I think, January, a big upgrade in January, sorry. And they're hoping to implement a number of the things that they've been trying to implement for a long time, but that keeps getting pushed back. It's taking longer and longer. But I think once a lot of these platforms have fleshed out their issues, once a lot of these apps are kind of out of the beta stage, user uptake is going to continue to increase, and we might see a lot more of these applications reach fruition, might see a lot more pop up. There's also a lot being done in the enterprise scene we're not seeing as well. And I think we're seeing a real division between the public networks and the private networks now, where they're going in very different directions and serving very different types of markets and use cases. But yeah, look, I think overall it's very positive. And look, I mean, we could only cover a fraction of the dApps that are actually out there. So if we didn't cover your favorite, let us know and we'll try and feature it at a future date. But look, if there are things we didn't cover, that's really encouraging as well, because it means there's more out there that are doing awesome things.
So many things going on as well. So yeah, if you've been listening, do ping stuff in, because we'd love to see it from you.
So in this week's privacy and security segment, we're going to talk about the browser.
The browser.
It's
time we talked about the browser.
Yeah, it is time we had a chat about the 10 top things this summer about the browser.
And you'd never guess what happened next. If you want to start taking more steps to secure your privacy, it needs to start at the browser. Maybe after your operating system change, that could be the first big one. But the next one is talking about the browser. Let's get into the basics of this.
So the first thing you need to do is stop using Chrome right now.
Oh, easy.
Joe, stop using Chrome.
Yeah. Why would you say that?
So Google makes most of their money from your data, and Chrome is just really like one big vacuum for all your data. They're literally recording everything you do. Like, they're not sitting there at their terminals watching everything you do, but all of their machine learning algorithms, all their data systems are recording everything you do on that browser. And they may say that they're not, but they are. And it's because the only way they make money. Google, first and foremost, are an advertising company. They make their money off your data. And Chrome is, after the search engine, and maybe more so now, the biggest way that they collect all your data.
If Google are spying on everything you do through the Chrome browser, who else should you use?
My first choice is always Firefox. Apart from the fact it runs better than Chrome now, they've made some really big improvements. It's made by Mozilla, who have a track record of promoting an open internet. They promote privacy, and they're also a not-for-profit, so they're not out to profit off your data. It means they don't need to make money off your data like Google does. And look, the more and more you read up on the Mozilla Foundation and what they do, the more and more I'm particularly comfortable in using the browser. And there've been a number of tests that have been done on the browser, and it's that there really isn't much, if anything at all, that gets sent back to Mozilla from using Firefox.
Are there any other options?
Yeah, look, I think Brave, which we talked about earlier, is a good secondary browser, but it is based on Chromium, which is what Chrome is based on. So it's also developed by Google. And I remember listening to an interview a little while ago with one of the people from Brave, and they said that they can't guarantee that they've taken all the backdoors out of the Chromium source code to stop data going back to Google.
So if I'm on Firefox, if I shift over to Firefox, what should I do?
Shifting over to Firefox is great, but there are several what they call extensions that you probably want to install as well. And the basic extensions I tell you to install HTTPS everywhere, which will force a secure web page wherever it possibly can for you to visit. I'd also recommend getting uBlock Origin, which is an ad blocker, and it'll block a number of other trackers and different things, and you can set the settings. And there's also an app called Privacy Badger, and Badger is very good because it will show you on a website what's trying to track you and what's not, and it'll give you really granular control over whether you let something track you or whether you don't.
And with those three extensions, you're covering yourself from almost every sort of tracking cookie or tracking website that's there.
Yeah.
And it's ensuring your security.
Yeah, almost. I mean, there's another one called NoScript, which if you want to get really hardcore, you can use. I don't. I know I probably should, but I just don't. It breaks too many of the web pages that I visit. But that's another one to look at. And then it'll also start looking at maybe not having your browser pop up with all your previous tabs that you always open, because that's kind of like your digital footprint. And if you're worried about someone identifying your computer or identifying who you are, building a profile on you, that's one of the biggest ways that people are able to do that, through what sites you regularly visit. And it's quite easy because, the more sites you visit, the more variables there are, the more easy it is for them to find a unique set of sites that someone may visit and identify you. So they're just little things that help. There is a do not track button on most web browsers. It doesn't really do much unless you go to a site that honors it, but most sites don't really honor it. But it can't can't hurt turning it on.
And for those extensions, so that was HTTPS Everywhere, Privacy Badger, and uBlock Origin. Are they available on Chrome if I absolutely don't want to move from Chrome?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So they're also in the Chrome store. I'm pretty sure they're all in the Chrome store. So if you don't want to move from Chrome, I'd recommend getting that. I'd also recommend getting a password manager that isn't the Google Password Manager, just to take your passwords out of there.
Password managers. What are some password managers you'd recommend right off the bat?
So two I'd recommend is KeePassXC, which is like a self-hosted one, and LastPass if you want something that's a bit more convenient. LastPass is the one that I use simply because I've been using it for years. It integrates with everything, and I'm willing to trade a little bit of the peace of mind in hosting something completely by myself for the convenience that I know that I can log into it from anywhere at all. But two-factor everything. Yeah, so look, I mean, it's quite simple. It's something that's kind of easy to do. But yeah, I think it's something that you should definitely look into if you're wanting to get a little bit more private or secure. I can vouch for Firefox. I use it all the time. It's very quick. Pretty much everything runs on it. You will not miss Chrome, I don't think, personally anyway, if you swap to it.
That's awesome. Cool.
So
quit Chrome, definitely quit Internet Explorer. What were you thinking?
Oh, yeah. Let's all move to Edge. Faster browser for Windows 10. If you know someone who might enjoy this, please feel free to share it with them.
You can find us at FOMO.show.
You can jump on our Telegram at FOMO.show/Telegram.
Follow us on Twitter at @the_FOMO_show.
And on Facebook at Facebook.com/The FOMO Show. That's it for us here at The FOMO Show. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like our show, please do feel free to subscribe in your podcast app of choice or via our YouTube channel.
At FOMO.show/YouTube.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Joe.
And as always, remember,
no FOMO. Lost all his crypto in a boating accident.
I know, it was so unfortunate.
Yeah. Just don't take your crypto on a boat.
Yeah.
And dangle it off the edge of your boat.
Seriously.
And drop it into the sea.
You're asking for trouble, aren't you? Yeah. Look, if you really want to support us, just send us some Bitcoin.
Yeah. Or Ripple.
You can send Joe Ripple.
I don't want it. I hope you cut that out, Joe. Cut it out, sir.
Cut it out!
Cut it out, boy.
Stop it!
Stop it.
Joe.